Welcome back to the Alt. Thank you for joining me again today. I'm your host, Shapirian. Pumped to be back with you after it was kind of a fun night of Thursday Night Football. It was a fine game and a ton of points scored. I think there was 60 points scored in this game or something like that. And we're going to talk all about my picks for Week 6. I'm going to tell you who's going to win, who's going to lose, what the biggest matchup of the week is, which might be a surprise to you because it's not Ravens-Commanders. But if you want to hear about Ravens-Commanders, we're still going to talk about that too. So it's going to be a great episode. I'm excited you've decided to join me for this one today. If you could, please consider subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. You can also follow me on most social media at the Alt NFL. I would love to hear from you on there or in the comments down below if you have something additional to say. I answer all my comments for what it's worth. With that said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the Thursday night matchup that we got to witness last night. The 49ers getting back on track, getting back in the win column to go to 3-3 with a victory over the Seahawks. Like I said, I saw this one coming from a mile away. And, when they jumped out to that big lead and, it was like 16-3 at halftime, they jumped out and scored another touchdown right after the half to make it 23-3. I was like, they're going to blow them out. And I wasn't sure what to make of, the Seahawks come back in the second half until it was probably all too late anyways, and it was a little bit, too late. Got to within a score, couldn't get that stop to get back out there on it, period. One of the real stories of that game is that weird punt return, fumble, not fumble call not a fumble on the field, replay review on the TV broadcast showed it was clearly hit by, I believe it was D. Williams' hand back on the punt return and then clearly recovered by the 49ers, meaning should have easily been their ball, and Seattle wouldn't have even had that chance to go take the lead that they didn't make good on anyways, by the way. My goodness. But, man, it was a weird one. And it seems like the replay reviews are being so inconsistent this season, and they actually came out, and whoever the Amazon replay specialist is, I can't remember his name at the moment, I apologize. Terry McCauley, I think that's who it is, came out and said, I actually just heard, by the way, they didn't have access to that camera angle. That camera shot the HD whatever footage that we had that showed his finger clearly move with the ball hitting it. Otherwise, they would have been able to overturn it. And so the call stood as called on the field, which was wrong, objectively wrong, provably wrong, which pisses me off. I don't understand that, NFL. How are you the multi-billion-dollar business that you are and still doing this crap? I don't understand it. Thankfully for the 49ers, it ended up not being a massive play in the game. They were able to recover just nicely. Seattle basically didn't score again until it was too late. 49ers cruised on to victory. What I want to say with this one is I'm not sure that we can declare the 49ers back. They're still banged up. People still seem hurt. Many buy ahead is a great sign, and it seems like tonight things didn't get better. Jordan Mason down, came back into the game later, comes back out after one more carry. Not good for my fantasy team, but a huge 70-plus yard run to seal the deal at the end from their third string. You take that. And the 49ers definitely have a deep enough roster and a good enough coaching staff to be a next man up kind of team, which is what I expect them to be. Seattle, moving to their side for a little bit. I'm not hating, I'm not bashing, I promise I'm not. I'm not rooting against you. I really actually want you to win this one because I think the storylines of a 2-4 49ers team would have kind of been hilarious to talk about. It would have been like, what the heck? Like, do we still think this 2-4 team can win the Super Bowl? Because I think we all would have said, yes, we do. But instead, you fall for the third straight game. And that narrative that I've had on you of being fool's gold is looking more and more true. My thought on you was, I think this is the season where you probably have to have a bit of a collapse in order to have a rebuild moving forward. You might disagree, the coaching staff might disagree, ownership might disagree. But I think if you look at this group right now, who's here that's going to be on a potential Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl team in a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years from now or 5 years from now? Is it a ton of players? It's not a lot. And I think most of them are on the defensive side of the ball. And so that's actually a plus in my opinion because you can very easily ramp up the offense to keep up with it. And they've had a very good offense all season for what it's worth. And Geno has been a great story for the past 3 seasons with them. But overall, I just think the past 3 weeks of Seattle are more indicative of who they are than the first 3 weeks of Seattle. And I'll dig a little bit more into the stats going the next week and see if I can find anything interesting to kind of highlight why I feel that way. But it just seemed like in this one, they never were going to be able to pull this one out, in my opinion. So I really wanted them to. I think it would have been fun, but I picked the 49ers to win, of course, and they got it done for me. So overall, I mean, for a Thursday night game, decently high scoring, a ton of second half scoring. Overall, it was like, 40 points almost in the second half alone, which is great. That's a lot of fun. For the NFC West, Tread said it. I seconded it. That division is so wide open, it's not even funny. Any team can win it, including the Cardinals, including the Rams. I feel like if they could get it together, get some injuries fixed, and pull some wins together, they could still win that division, I think. I'm not predicting it. I still think the 49ers win it like I predicted before the season, of course, but who's to say? Seattle's not going anywhere. They're going to be a fighting team down the stretch, but like I said, I don't think that they're going to be able to get this one done when it matters most. I don't think they're going to be able to win this division. And I think the team we've seen the past 3 weeks, far more indicative of them than the team we saw in weeks 1 through 3. So, congrats to the 49ers. Seattle, you lose 4 straight next week? Scary hours. I don't know. What do they have next week? I should probably look that up. Do they have a bye? A lot of teams have byes after Sunday night games. No, just a mini bye, and they go to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. So, not going to be a slouch of a game. That's going to be a good one. Actually, that's going to be a fun one to watch. So, look out for that one. Seattle, don't lose 4 straight. Come on. Get your stuff together. And once again, congrats to San Francisco on saving the season, perhaps. Time will tell with the San Francisco 49ers. Looking forward now, at this point in the show, on a Thursday episode, I pretty usually will jump right into my picks, but the matchup of the week, and, a lot of people are saying it's the matchup of the year, and it's hard to disagree with the way these two teams have looked this season, but the Ravens-Commanders game this weekend, it's getting so much buzz and so much talk that I feel like I need to at least acknowledge it, because if you're listening to a Monday through Friday NFL show that doesn't even talk Ravens-Commanders, that's a little strange. And spoiler alert, I don't have it for any of my picks of the week. It's not the most important game of the week, in my opinion. I genuinely don't think so. Most fun, I'll give you that all day. I think it's going to be a very fun game that I'm very much looking forward to, but it's not the most important game of the weekend in terms of outcomes, residual, things like that. And I don't have either of them as my one and done or risky pick. So, let's talk Ravens-Commanders for a second. And here's what I want to say with this. And I'll get into this for just a brief second here and say, I don't think it's going to be the game anybody thinks it is right now. I don't think it's going to turn out the way we think it's going to. I agree. Ravens offense, Commanders defense, not good for the Commanders. I don't disagree. Commanders offense, Ravens defense, not going to look good for the Ravens defense. But if you're asking me in all seriousness with a game like this, and yes, I just watched the Ravens get shredded by Joe Burrow, I understand it. I think the Ravens were sleepwalking for a lot of that game. And, the Ravens are facing a quarterback this week that is new, fresh, and still learning and adjusting. Joe Burrow is the only reason we're looking at the Ravens right now and saying, oh, they're going to get killed this week on defense. And I acknowledge the defense hasn't looked great at multiple points this season. For sure. Absolutely. Their defense has got to improve. The secondary has to look better at some point if they're going to go where we know they can go, where I've picked them to go, being to be the team to hoist the Lombardi this year. But if we're being honest with ourselves, what feels more likely here? That the Ravens defense of a John Harbaugh team with a lot of big names making a lot of money, who had a lot of production last year, get it together and figure it out and don't let the rookie torch them like he has already torched a bunch of teams. It's not like they don't see him coming. They see him coming. I promise you they do. Or that Jaden Daniels keeps playing at a literal historically great pace already and continues and never has a bad game this season. I think the Ravens are going to handily win this one. And, before anybody gets at me and things like that, and you're like, oh, you just whatever. I hope the Commanders win. I'm pulling hard for them. But there's something in my gut that just tells me, they're not getting it done this weekend. No way. Just like for that Commanders-Bengals Monday Night Football game where my gut told me all week, doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good, Shapirian. Something doesn't feel right here. I don't know. And the Commanders won that game. I get the same feeling this weekend for Ravens Commanders. I not only don't think it's going to be the game that people are predicting, I will go even further and say I think the Ravens win handily by at least 2 scores. And, I'm not predicting a blowout. And look, here's my thing. I think Jaden Daniels is going to look just fine this weekend. I'm not predicting him to look bad at any point. He's the obvious Rookie of the Year favorite, things like that. But I don't see it working out for them this particular weekend because the Ravens have it figured out. They've got a little bit of that magic, a little bit of that voodoo magic that gets them some wins they shouldn't have. I always blame the Steelers for voodoo magic, where I'm just like, I don't know how they win half these games. They don't look good. They don't look like a good football team a lot of the time when they win football games. That's the Steelers. I feel like the Ravens are already there to that point this season. I spells bad news for the Commanders, in my opinion. So, with that said, I'll get that. I just wanted to say that. I am ultimately predicting the Ravens to win, even though it's not one of my real picks of the week that I normally do here. And I just wanted to put that out there, put my name on it, and say, come Monday when you listen to the alt and you're like, the Ravens they absolutely killed him. Shapirian told you the Ravens are going to win that game. Bank on it. Now, speaking of picks, let's get into my picks. And my picks have been historically very bad this season. If you're a new listener and you're like, what if this guy has? You have no reason to take my picks seriously other than the most important game of the week, which is really just a conceptual thing looking down the road to say what happens depending on the outcomes of this game. And we'll get into that one first, and then we'll do a little recap of my season picks before we get into the risky pick and the one and done pick. Let's talk the most important game of the week. It's not one I'm going to be able to talk about come Monday because it's on Monday. It's Bills-Jets. So I might give you a little score prediction and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I don't always do it for Monday games, but I think... Are we doing a doubleheader this week, or is it just the one? Just the one, right? In that case, I should give you a score prediction, winner prediction, that type of deal. But look, it's obvious this is the most important game of the week. 3-2 versus 2-3. Outright lead in the division on the line because if the Jets win, they tie the Bills in record and have the tiebreaker. So there you go. You have the division lead early in the season with the rest of the season to look ahead of you and put the disaster of the first 5 weeks behind you. Lose this game and the offense looks exactly the same regardless, I don't know. And that's kind of where my gut is at on this, is like, I don't feel like they're going to turn it around just because a different play caller is there and a guy who was already in the building and is in charge of the group that's already been very good, and Jeff Ulbrich is running the team now. I know that defense has them. I know that defense is solid. I don't bank on that offense figuring it out. And I don't know that I trust that offense to figure it out. And I don't know that the moves they've made are going to necessarily help. It's a massive shakeup. The cultural impact of firing your head coach midseason is massive. Flip it to the other side. There's something about when a team loses back-to-back that is expected to do well. 49ers, Bills now this week, right? And you see a team like, the Chiefs almost never lose back-to-back. Things like that. If you don't know, actually, people always talk about 0-2, death sentence. 0-2, it's so bad. Your odds go way down if you're 0-2. They don't go down for the reason you're probably thinking. They go down because the best teams don't tend to lose back-to-back games. Super Bowl champions don't tend to lose back-to-back games at any point, for what it's worth. Very frequently, the Super Bowl champion did not lose 2 games consecutively all season. Which makes sense when you think about it. It's a 16 or 17 game season depending on the year. It adds up. Bills have lost 2 straight. They know they cannot lose 3 straight. They know they cannot lose 3 straight. And I count on them to show up and look legitimately good again this week. I don't think the team we saw the last 2 weeks is them. And for what it's worth, they should have beat the Texans. That was a weird ending, and I think they played themselves out of that game in the first half, crawled back into it, and then still lost late. Which, by the way, it's one of my biggest pet peeves is when a team does that, especially when it's my team. You're down all game. You crawl back. You tie it late just to still freaking lose. That kills me. Bills did that this past week. They're going to be locked in this week, too. Make no mistake about it. And the outcome of this game, Jets win. Oh, buddy. New York might throw their Super Bowl parade that day for them. In New Jersey, whoever would throw it in that case. Because then the momentum they're going to have from a win like that, massive. It's not just significant for a metaphorical reason or like an outward appearance type of deal. It's significant because of who it came against. And they've struggled against the Bills for years, as most teams in the AFC East have. Pull it out this week. Looks like the season's back on track in a way, right? Worth noting. Bills, you need this one. You moved to 4-2, and it's all like, okay, those 2 losses were weird, but 4-2, we're fine. We're still in the driver's seat in the AFC East, and no team seems to be catching up with them if they put the Jets back down a peg this week. It's going to be massive regardless. This is going to have January implications on it for a Week 6 game. And I feel like we've had a lot of games that way. Like I said, this is a segment that I feel very confident in saying I've not missed the mark on why a game could be important yet. Again, Jags-Browns, Week 2. I'm going to keep going back to that one. Jags lost, haven't looked the same. Browns offense still looked bad, haven't looked the same. It's worth noting. So, that's my pick for the most important matchup of the week. Bills, Jets, and it's going to be a good one come Monday night. I'm excited, and we'll talk more about it on Monday. For now, let's talk for a second. To put your name on an NFL show as a nobody in this industry and a nobody in this business who has no plugs, no connections, I'm just a fan the same as you guys are. And I do try to take it a little bit more seriously. I try to watch as much of as many football games as possible. I go back and I watch football games that I didn't get to catch so that I can comfortably talk about them. I don't think the average person is doing that. I look at box score stats and advanced stats to be able to comfortably discuss them and try to explain why they're important and use them to explain my arguments of why I feel certain ways about certain teams. So I try to take it a step up. But regardless, with that said, it's hard to be in my shoes to a degree and feel comfortable putting myself out there when everyone watches and listens to the NFL in the United States, it feels like. So with that said, imagine being me, deciding in week 1 to do a segment where I take an underdog to win every week. An underdog has won every week, of course, and will continue to do so for the entire season. The favorites do not ever go 14-0 and by week 16-0 when everyone's playing. It never happens. Never. So with that said then, why am I 0-5 in picking an underdog every week? God! That's so hard to do. And if you look at the list, I'll just show it to you real quick. Here's the list of my risky picks of the week and why it's so bad, right? There's really only one on here that doesn't seem like super annoying and bad. Week 1, I picked the Commanders as my underdog, saying like, I think this is a team that can do something this season, and I like them this week. It's their only loss! You've got to be kidding me! Week 2, I picked the Rams. They got trashed by Arizona. Trashed by Arizona. I'm like, okay, this may have something to these Cardinals. They looked good week 1 against the Bills, and they looked great week 2 against the Rams. Let's pick them week 3. Lost to Detroit. Fine. Oh, you mean to tell me the hottest team in the NFL is an underdog this week? The Bills? Going into a massive game? Pfft, I'll take them. Blown out. The Colts, who have Joe Flacco, looked great last season and are going into a team that doesn't have a win all season and are looking to end a streak that they know is important to end. Lost. Ugh, you've got to be kidding me that I have not picked a single underdog right this week. Or this season, I should say. So with that said, part of me feels like I'm just telling you who's going to lose this week. And it doesn't get much better when you look at the slate. And you know what? This is the 3rd or 4th time already in the history of the show, the brief month-long history of this show, that I've done this. I have something written down here for my risky pick of the week. I'm changing it. 100% changing it. Because I need to get on the board. I have 2 underdogs picked this week in total. 2. Out of the slate of 14 games, I picked 2 teams that are not favored to win, to come out victorious on Sunday. Okay? So with that said, I have the same team I picked last week, picked to win this week, also as an underdog in the Indianapolis Colts. I didn't write them down because I didn't want to go with the same team 2 weeks in a row. That said, the risky picks, that's not the case. Now, One and done picks, I can't repeat teams. I'll give you a list of the teams I've used for that in my next pick here. Risky picks, I can pick whoever the heck I want any given week. If I think they're an underdog, or if I know they're an underdog that I think is going to win, I can pick them. So, here it is. My risky pick of the week is the Colts versus the Titans. What are we doing by the fact that they are still an underdog against the Titans? The Titans are still favored to win this game? That's wild. I look at the spreads for the week, and there's ones that jump out to me a little bit, and I will tell you the other pick that I have as an underdog that I was going to use as my risky pick is Cardinals 5.5-point underdogs to the Packers, because I just feel like this is a weird one that the Cardinals are going to show up when nobody's expecting them to and get this one done. I can't explain it. It just feels like, yeah, they're going to do that. I don't know. I feel good about it. I picked them. I saw the spread after I picked them, like 5.5. Not giving them a chance. That's a huge spread in the NFL. I had the Colts, and they're a smaller underdog. So with that said, I gotta pick them. My risky pick of the week in Week 6 is the Colts versus the Titans. I don't even care who the quarterback is. I have the Cardinals winning too. Who needs the Cardinals over the Packers? No. Risky pick is going to get on the board with my first correct one of the season, with the Colts getting it done in a divisional matchup against the Titans. Book it. Now, with that said, let's move on to the one and done pick of the week. The one where it's the equivalent of a survivor pool pick. It's the equivalent of a survivor pick, okay? Had a bad stretch with them too. We're down to 2-3 on the season after we had a couple decent ones in a row because Seattle blew it against the Giants and allowed them to get some momentum right before this freaking Sunday night game. Thank you, Seattle. God. I thought they were going to get it done last week. I didn't think there was another game on Seattle's schedule that I felt better about them winning than that one. So I picked them. And that has a lot to do with why I picked this team this week. It's going to be a recurring trend, as it is with survivor pools, where you pick the team who's playing against the really bad team most of the time, and you're usually right. For what it's worth, this is the one, like I said, I can only pick a team once, because in a survivor pool, which this is modeled after, you can only pick a team once. The only difference is once I'm lost, as I did in week 1, I'm still doing this weekly, just to give you an idea of a team that I feel really good about to win the game this week. So, I cannot use the Bengals, who lost to New England, the Chiefs, who did get a victory over the Bengals that week, who I picked, the Buccaneers, who lost to Detroit, the 49ers, who blew out the Patriots, or the Seahawks, who lost to the Giants last week. You look at the spread of games, and in my opinion, it is blatantly obvious who I'm going to choose in this one. I'm picking the Texans. I looked at their schedule again as well. I get they have the Titans again and things like that. There's not a better week to pick them than this one. I feel great about the Texans in this one. That offense is going to roll through the Patriots defense. I don't care that Drake May is starting. Rookies don't typically win their first ever start. That's another reason to pick them, even though I think the offense will eventually, at some point, look better with Drake May than it has with Jacoby Brissett. It's the Texans all the way this week. And they are a team that I look at and I pick and I'm like, I hate to have them gone this early, right? Like, Bengals, Chiefs, Bucks, 49ers, Seahawks, Texans. That's a good chunk of teams I can't use again for the rest of the season. Maybe slim pickings at the end of the year. And I get that. It's part of the fun, right? So, I like the Texans to win this week. I think they're going to absolutely blow the Patriots out of the water. And to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't look at another game this week and feel better about any team like I do with the Texans over Titans. Or over the Patriots. My brain is everywhere this week. I have the Titans going down to my risky pick this week. Sorry about it. So, with that said, to recap, most important game of the week is Bills-Jets, hands down. The outcome of this one is going to shake up the season regardless. You're going to hear a ton about the outcome of that game for the next week. It's massive. My risky pick was going to be the Cardinals. It's not. It's the Colts. I'm picking the Colts for the second consecutive week. Please, Indianapolis, if you can hear me, please save me. Get me on the board with a win for my risky picks. My one and done pick of the week, give me the Texans over the Patriots. Easy peasy. If you made it this far in the episode, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. checking to see if you're subscribed. But that is it for this week of the Alt. I'll see you bright and early to talk Monday Night Football and the rest of the Sunday games that have already happened at that point. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. With that said, we'll see you back here bright and early on Monday. Watch some football this weekend. See ya.